This is Cheryl.
This is Emma.
This is Catherine.
And we're the Baronesses.
Hi everyone, today we're coming to you from Quandamooka country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Quandamooka people, and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging.
Hey everyone, this is the Baronesses podcast. Today we're going to be speaking about our stories and just giving an introductory, basically, welcome to our podcast, basically. And we've got Emma and Catherine here. How are you guys going?
Great.
I'm going good, thank you.
I'm Cheryl, if you haven't already heard. And we're just going to be talking about our stories, why we're doing the podcast, why we're at this place in our life. So we're all childless, not by choice. Although we may want to, do you guys actually call yourselves childless, not by choice? I know some people prefer child-free.
I'm still working on that. In fact,
Yep.
I'll talk about that in an upcoming episode.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it as going from childless to child-free.
Yeah, that's where I'm sort of at. Like, I would like to be child-free, to make it feel more like a choice. But yes, it is a journey. But yeah, what has been your story so far, Emma?
So I will share my story first
Yeah.
with you guys. Okay, so I always wanted to have a family. I just thought that was a given. That is the world that I grew up in. You got married, you had babies, and you lived happily ever after. So I first got pregnant in 2010. I got pregnant naturally. I was quite sick, had a lot of morning sickness. I'd been for a scan and seen a heartbeat with that baby. But then at 10 weeks along, I had severe pain, and I didn't have any bleeding with that. I doubled over on the couch thinking, I don't know, what do I do here? So I contacted the doctor and went in and discovered that there was no more heartbeat. So had to go in for a DNC. And so that first miscarriage that I had was so unexpected. It was such a shock. That is not what was supposed to happen.
Yeah, you just never think that it's going to happen to you.
No.
Yeah.
So it really turned my world on its head. At that time, I was watching my colleagues and my friends all having their babies. So I went into the why did this happen to me kind of thing. Then the following year, we had significant flooding in Queensland and our town was very badly affected by that. We were heavily involved in the cleanup, and I was exposed to some pretty hectic toxicity in those floodwaters.
Yeah.
So I actually started to have health issues in the weeks that followed. So my health, I went into a decade of actually really poor health. After that, it took a long time to find out exactly what was going on and get proper help. But during that time, I was also still wanting to be a mum and having pregnancies and having miscarriages. So I had more miscarriages in 2012, 2014 and 2016. These were all naturally conceived, but I just wasn't able to hang on to them. So I ended up having 2 more DNCs. I had the investigative surgery, the laparoscopy and the hysteroscopy. They could find no real reason at the time. The doctor said there was a bit of endo, but nothing significant of note, and kind of telling me to just keep going.
Do you know what grade it was?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
No, never got that far into
Wow,
it.
okay.
So I then took the path of acupuncture, naturopathy, kinesiology, all of that kind of stuff. I also sought the reassurance, I suppose, of multiple psychics during that time who all kept telling me, you're going to be a mother, you're going to get your babies. So I held on to that hope. But then finally in 2022, We did a little bit of genetic testing and stuff, and we found that we had a partial match for the HCL-DQA genetic issue.
Yeah,
I
the
think.
DQ alpha, I think it's called elsewhere. Yeah.
Right, okay,
yeah.
yep. So for me, that was a possible clue. And so we were talking to a doctor in Melbourne who was recommending a certain protocol which did involve IVF, some quite hectic medication. Because of my health issues, that was not a realistic option for us. So then we started to look into surrogacy, and we found out that we would need a starting balance of about 70k, but to expect
geez.
100 and up. I found out that we would need to source our own surrogate. So I did actually start to join some groups, trying to find someone who might help us with that. We also found out there's a lot of legal costs involved, psychological screening and sessions that you need to have. So that was a lot. So we also decided that wasn't for us.
Yeah.
My husband and I questioned if we wanted to continue to be together, continue our life together, would we go off to find other people in pursuit of the family? But we have decided no, we're going to stay together and make it the best life
Yeah.
that we can. So that's pretty much our story, my story. So yeah, I feel like I'm kind of coming out the other end of the tunnel now, accepting our situation, expanding my life and my circles and cultivating an experience that I really enjoy. So yeah, that's where things are up to for me. How about you, Catherine?
Yeah, well, my story is very similar to yours, Emma, actually. So my story, I'm going to take you back to when I was 33, and I was having a lot of trouble with my menstrual cycle, and I went to see a gynecologist who suggested that, maybe you've got endo. Let's get in there and have a look. So we did a laparoscopy, and she did find that there was quite a lot of endo. And so she removed that and then said, you should be fine now. You should be able to go and, meet someone and have babies. And I sort of went, oh, okay, no worries. And then the next time I saw her, I was still having a lot of pain and a lot of issues from the endo, even with the treatment that she'd prescribed. And I said to her, can you just do a hysterectomy? And she said, no, we can't do that just yet because you're too young, you haven't had a baby, and what if you met the man of your dreams tomorrow and decided you want to have a baby? And I'm like, oh, okay, then I'll just let that idea go then. And then not long after that, surprise, surprise, I did meet the man of my dreams. And yes, we decided that perhaps maybe we should consider having a baby. A lot of our friends were having babies, whether it was, naturally or via IVF or whatever means, and our family members also having babies. So we thought, yep, let's just, throw caution to the wind, give it a try. And then when we were getting married, around that time, I sort of thought, oh, gee, I wonder if I'm pregnant. And then a couple of days after we got married, I found out that I was indeed pregnant. And we were also moving house at the same time into a different state. So I had to go and race around, have all the scans, the blood tests and everything in one state, take all of that information to another state, try and find another doctor and get myself organised and whatnot. And we'd just gotten to our new hometown. We hadn't gotten into our house yet. We were basically living in a temporary accommodation in a hotel. And I started having a bit of bleeding, and I thought, that sounds a bit iffy. And so we had a talk about it, and my husband said, oh, well, maybe you should see a doctor. So I rang a doctor, and they said, call an ambulance. So I called an ambulance, and the ambulance came, took me to the hospital, and the hospital said, oh, you're having a miscarriage. Just go home and get on with your life.
Oh, geez.
So I thought, well, okay, that's, I didn't know what my options were. Nobody gave me any information aside from go home and get on with your life. And I wasn't really sure what to do with that information because that wasn't much to go by. So I had to rely on Dr. Google after that. And then we thought later on we'd try again. And basically ended in the same result time after time. I'd get pregnant naturally, but then it would fail within the first, 9-10 weeks, and at various stages as well. And every time I had an ultrasound, there'd be no heartbeat, there'd just be signs of a pregnancy, but that it was just going nowhere. And every time just get sent home to wait it out. And then I finally convinced a GP to let me go and see a gynecologist, because the town that we were living in at the time, it was very, very difficult to get the doctors to hand you over to a specialist, because they like to keep control of the patients in that town.
That's crazy.
And so eventually I was able to go to see a gynecologist, and that particular doctor did another laparoscopy just to get rid of any more endo and make sure there wasn't anything else going on there. And then that cycle just continued, and some of the specialists that we saw actually recommended certain types of fertility treatment, and that's also going to be in another episode as well. But we sort of went from treatment to treatment to treatment to treatment to treatment, and miscarriage after miscarriage, and at some point you just have so many miscarriages that you lose count. I'm sure my husband has kept a track of how many, but I stopped counting because it was just too traumatic. And then finally, after multiple surgeries and multiple people saying, no, we don't want to do any more surgeries on you because you're too complicated, I finally said, okay, I've had enough. I've had enough of the miscarriages, the psychological trauma, the pain, the not being able to go to work because my period was just so intense and painful. I just went to a specialist and I said, I want a hysterectomy and I want it now. And so I was lucky enough that she caught me on a bad day, so I wasn't taking no for an answer. And so I guess now that I've had that hysterectomy done, now we can sort of look at what we can do from now on into the future. We've gone from being childless, and now we're looking at how we can go into being more child-free, knowing that is what our future is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over to you, Cheryl.
All right. Well, mine's a bit different in that I never fell pregnant naturally. That was basically the problem, actually. So I actually never grew up wanting children. I had a pretty difficult childhood, so I felt like I just didn't want to pass that on to another generation. And I pretty much was pretty adamant most of my 20s that I didn't want to do it. But then I met my husband, and everything changed. In him, I found someone like my equal. So I felt like, I can actually do this. I can have like a happy family. We can raise happy children. I'd be a great mum, I thought. So off we went. It was during the pandemic, actually, that kind of pushed us to start trying. But it just wasn't happening. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't getting my period for like 70 days. And I'm like, this isn't right. This is not healthy. This is not normal. Went off to the doctor, eventually found out, yes, I've got PCOS. We tried Clomid for many rounds. That didn't work. We eventually, got my partner's sperm tested. It did come back low, but the doctor was like, oh, no, it's definitely normal. But like he told me I can't even remember the values they were, but I went and did my own research and it was like, yeah, no, that's not normal. But they were always adamant there was nothing wrong with the sperm, whatever. It's all, something going on with me. So we then did 2 IUIs. The first one didn't work. The second one did. That one unfortunately ended in an ectopic. I was in a tremendous amount of pain on and off. No bleeding, but yeah, we went to the hospital. First time they kind of just knocked us back. They said, oh, you've probably just got gas.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then eventually it just got to a point where I was like, no, this isn't right. We went in for our scan. Nothing was found. Heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken. Went to the hospital. Was not a good experience. Was passing out in the waiting room, waiting for surgery. Then they plopped us into the maternity ward after and before the surgery. Of course, that was quite traumatic because you're surrounded by happy families.
I think we've all had that.
Yeah,
All had that experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, so they took my fallopian tube out because it had burst. I was basically on death's door that day. It got very, very close. Then after that, they basically said, oh, yeah, just go back to your GP. It shouldn't be an issue, shouldn't be a big deal. Went to my GP. She's like, nope, it does decrease your fertility a little bit and it was very hard for you to get pregnant in the first place. So off to IVF for you guys. So we did 3 rounds of IVF at 2 different clinics. That was quite traumatic in itself. The first clinic I went to, they didn't do egg retrievals under general anaesthetic.
Wow.
They only did it on local. So I was awake during 2 of the egg retrievals and I was screaming out in pain. I was listening to the person retrieving the eggs as well, talking about their children, which was great. That didn't work out, obviously. We did end up having 1 chemical, but all the others just didn't take. That was 5 transfers. And then I had my 6th one at the new clinic, which luckily did have general anaesthetic. But at that point, it was just, we were so done. We did that final egg retrieval with them and the doctor finally said to us, there's something wrong with your partner's sperm. And I was like, well, I kind of suspected that. We already knew that. He also sent me off for a laparoscopy and they did find endo. It was only grade 1. And so they sort of said, oh, it shouldn't have caused all the issues that you've been having. But they removed what they could. And they also did the blood tests and we were also a partial match for DQ alpha.
Yep.
But, I did a lot of research into it because the medication that they give to treat you, the treatment is very expensive.
Yeah.
And then secondly, it's quite dangerous. It's dangerous to the mother and the child. So I wasn't keen on doing that. My partner didn't want me to do it. And I also found quite a lot of research saying that it's not a fully proven, treatment and issue. So I just decided, no, we're not going to do that. But by the time we found out the last embryo didn't take, we had hit a wall emotionally. We both were just checked out. We said, no, we can't do any more. That's basically our story. Now we're just trying to, move on with our life and find other ways of creating connection and meeting and all those other fun things.
Yeah, and I guess it's a big part of it is being creative and looking at how we can move on, in our relationships and, be open to the possibilities of what we can do with our future.
Yeah.
And it is, for me, a big part of it. That is what I thought my purpose was going to be.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, so that's been a big question around purpose. Yeah. So, yeah, it's opened a very interesting journey, I suppose. Yeah. So, I just want to, I don't know if I want to finish with this, but somebody said to me, because, resentment and grief and feeling sorry for myself, I suppose, or grieving what didn't work out for me has been a big part of my journey.
Yeah.
And someone said to me, Emma, your soul does not get it wrong. your soul does not get it wrong. So I've had to really try to accept on that level that everything is working out for me the way that it was meant to. I sometimes wish I was privy to that soul path. I guess we're getting a bit deep now. But yeah, so that's a thought or a perspective that has helped me, I suppose. Yeah.
I think that, for me, I just more so see it as like bad things sometimes happen to people all the time. Like no one has a perfect life.
No.
Everyone's got their struggle,
Yeah.
and this just happens to be mine.
Yeah.
Like I mean, the older I get, the more I see that everyone has their own
Cross
thing
to bear.
Yeah,
They really do. That's so true.
and you're just like, okay, well, this is just mine. I'm just gonna have to, make the most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, along with the trauma and the hardship does come little blessings. I mean, I would never ever want someone to tell that to me to be invalidating in any way. I hate when people do that. But when you kind of can go to yourself, oh, well, there's gems that can come out of this experience. I think that's quite powerful.
Yeah.
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 I think that's a good take-home message that even though we have had our own experiences and it has been a struggle and a journey, there is something good that we can each take home from that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's not, we don't have to be sad forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important too, because a lot of people do pity people without children who wanted children. And I don't think that that's, necessary. We should be able to, have a wonderful life and be admired for who we are as human beings, even if things didn't turn out the way that we wanted them to.
That's right. Yeah, there are many iterations of the human experience.
Yeah.
So, and they're all valid and they're all beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's why I particularly wanted to start the podcast as well, was to get sort of talk about all this stuff. You often hear about the stories of childless people. We're quite hidden away because it's either, you have infertility and you end up with a success, or you have infertility and you just don't talk about it, just go away, go live in the shadows. Whereas I feel like, no, we should be able to say this is our experience, this is our life, and it's just as wonderful as anyone else's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good message to end on, really. If you happen to be childless and you want to write into us, letting us know what your story is, please do. Even if you happen to be a parent or someone who's dealing with infertility, we'd love to hear from you. We are planning to do a Tuesday episode once a fortnight. That's Australian Eastern Standard Time because we're in Brisbane. We've got a lot planned. What are you guys going to be doing for your next episodes?
My next episode will be looking at the fertility roundabout.
Oh, good, yeah.
And I am actually going to be talking about identifying as a childless person.
Yeah. And I'll be doing a deep dive into regret, which is a big scary topic, but I think that it'll be very interesting and enlightening. If you want to have a look at all of our information, any links or anything, that's going to be in the show notes. And see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram, The Baronesses Podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. If you have questions or comments or would like to be a guest in our show, drop us an email, baronessespod@gmail.com, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.